Hi guys, for everyone who is here, we are going to do an amazing live with Anuja Amin, who's the founder of Circles of Safety, and she's also curated a course for Kidsstoppress because it's extremely important. And I will share some facts with you which will startle you. Okay, first up, let me tell you that a fact check. Did you know that 1 in 2 children are sexually abused before their 18th birthday? Did you know that? Shocking, right? I mean, I didn't know of this either. But as responsible parents, I think what is becoming extremely important is for all of us to ensure that our children are extremely aware, because they are exposed to so much more than what you and me are or were exposed to. I always believe that when the information comes from the right source, it becomes so much more important and becomes so much more valuable versus our kids learning it from a place of the internet or through a friend, where it is not coming through through a kind of a noted source, right? And that becomes a very important aspect. So I would love for you guys to continue with this, continue watching the session, because at the end of the session, of course, we're going to share with you more about the course and also how you can access this module and go about accessing it at a time that is convenient to you and with your children, right? Hi, Anuja.
Hi, Mansi.
So nice to have you. And for everybody who doesn't know about Circles of Safety and what we've created together, I need you to give them a brief roundup.
Of course. So, thank you for having me here. So, what we've created together is this hands on educational module called Raising a Safer Next Generation. And I think that it's critical that parents and concerned adults are able to communicate essential body safety messages to their children at a very early stage. Sometimes we wait till they're older. So this module has been designed keeping in mind the 4 to 8 year old age group. And a lot of people look at me thinking that, oh my God, what will I even tell my 4 year old? And so we have essentially covered 5 main body safety rules. We've looked at talking and understanding about your private parts, and we've done it in a very fun way with a read aloud book. So I'm essentially reading in, watch with your child as a video. And then we've also done like a really interesting video on types of feelings, types of touch, and consent, because it's very important that we teach children how to build healthy body boundaries, right? Only then will they be able to, also if they understand their feelings, then they can identify what the touch was like. And so for me, this video is particularly a highlight in this module because my daughter and I co-created this video just very impulsively. It was never planned that way. And so I think it will be very relatable when a child and the parent watch it together, because that's what I've done with my daughter. And then finally, the fifth body safety message that we're really driving home is about a child being able to have a grown-up safety network. Today, if something bothers a child, who are they going to go to? So if you're actively part of that discussion, then you can almost control who they're going to speak to, and you can be informed about it and make sure that at least one person on that network is not part of the family, so that if something happens at school or something happens when you're not around, then they're able to reach out to them safely.
Right, which is so interesting because it brought in suddenly so many facets, right? Because good old days, we would only have that one set talk that our school would organize, and that was about it, right? And I don't know about everybody else, but we didn't even know as kids growing up in the 70s and 80s that this is abuse. I don't know if everybody is kind of with me on that. And but I think we as kids growing up in the 70s and 80s, we didn't even know that this was a form of abuse, right? Or we knew that we didn't feel good, but maybe our mums and dads were too busy to say, oh, that's, like, or maybe we didn't have the courage to go up and speak. I don't know how many people are with me on that. Or it didn't even cross our mind, right? We were so busy playing, or, it was kind of just shoved under the carpet. And also, I think as parents, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anuja, as parents, we always feel, we always have this mentality, ये मेरे साथ तो नहीं होगा, मेरे बच्चे के साथ तो नहीं होगा, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you go about changing that mindset?
So I fundamentally, I agree with everything you've said. And a lot of people that I come across in my workshops and all the work I've done with schools, a lot of people say, हाँ, ये तो होता है ना, मतलब it's part of growing up, which is quite scary because like you said, people who've grown up in the 70s and 80s feel like this is just one of those experiences you have, like how bullying is so normalized, etc. Right? It's one of those things. And I realized that a lot of this stems from the helplessness, the stigma, and the lack of awareness that the parents and any concerned adult, I think it goes beyond parents, as a society, that we just don't know how to handle it. And I think that is where it comes from, that it can't happen here. And I just want to let people know that it happens in homes of nice people, it happens in homes of, and even with kids who go to very nice elite schools, it happens everywhere. It's a universal issue. It's not just about India, it crosses all cultural boundaries, right? And the fact is that it's scary, and which is why it's difficult to admit that sometimes we invite these perpetrators into our homes. We invite them to dine with us, to celebrate with us, to be part of our trusted circle. And because of that, many times the child is unable to, really say that, oh, but actually this is a trusted person, why will they harm me? And there is a lot of confusion, which is also what I cover in this module, that when we talk about types of touch, I have spoken about safe touch, unsafe touch, and also confusing, because most of the abuse ends up becoming quite confusing because it's perpetrated by somebody and then that's where the children need that assistance. And effectively, circles of safety is my response to I'm a survivor and I'm a mother of two, and it's my response to the years of shame, the silence, and the lack of prevention knowledge, the lack of vocabulary and understanding that this had happened. Exactly what you said, I didn't even know till years later that this was wrong, this wasn't meant to happen. And you blame yourself. There's so much of an impact it has on your entire life, with the guilt, with just your body image, your confidence, and everything. So I feel that parents need to address this head on. I think today we don't have a choice. And I think it's high time that we sort of wake up and shake up and say, this is something, it's a silent epidemic. And I'm going to take simple steps, because again, that's another myth I want to bust for you here. Very simple steps, common sense stuff that can be done to drastically reduce the risk. Okay, so I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed, and this is essentially what this KSP bundle does, that we're able to talk to you in a fun, engaging, friendly way. We're not using the word sex, sexuality, abuse, nothing. It's very simple, right?
Right. No, which is very interesting that you said, and that brings me to my next question: that the perpetrators and that confusing block sometimes known to the child. We always say like, "Acha beta, kiss de do," or give them a hug, and then they'll give you a chocolate, and it's often somebody known, and knowingly, unknowingly, we kind of push our children to do that, right? So, how do you deal with something like that, which is very, very blurry?
So you're absolutely right. And I think one of the things, again, that we talk about is being able to build healthy boundaries. And here, when we say, how do we go about doing that? Unfortunately, we can't cherry pick. We can't say, as a concerned adult, hey, when it comes to body safety, you better make sure, like stranger danger, or you better make sure that, nobody touches you in your private parts, etc. The messages also then have to go on to you being able to provide that safe space for them. So on one side, you're giving them these body messages. On the other side, you're force feeding them. That's not going to work. Because when you say body boundaries, it's not just about safety. It's not just about feeding. It encompasses so many other things, right? From how you make them dress, what you make them do. I think all of that, we have to be consistent in our messaging, saying, hey, you have a voice, and I will respect, I will listen, and let's have a conversation of what is it that you want, how do you feel. And so I feel that our discussions need to be more open rather than more guided by this is wrong, this is right, you have to do this, you must do this. Uncle आए हैं, दूर से आए हैं, बहुत दिन के बाद आए हैं, go sit on their lap. No, let's help them, give them options, alternatives, and let's teach them that physical affection is not the only way, that you're not obligated to show it in a physical way. You can respect by, maybe doing namaste, by making them a nice sharbat, something like that. There are different ways. And so work with your child.
I would just urge all the parents that, sometimes we're too busy, we just don't listen to our kids. And this is something I repeatedly keep saying. There is a safe touch, and there's this touch, and there is this feeling. I don't know if everybody gets it. Right? That eerie feeling that you get, and and that feeling, if you're not acknowledging that feeling of your child, you're doing so much of injustice to your child, because it can really, like I know of cases where the child would, if they knew that uncle was going to come by, they would perhaps, pee in the bed the night before, just thinking that, oh my God, that uncle's going to come tomorrow, right? And that can be a very, very moving or very unnerving experience. And what will the mother say at that point? No, it's okay, just go, whatever. Oh, yes, that cannot happen. I would just urge all the parents, please listen and acknowledge. I think that is just acknowledging is just the first step to.
And when you get the icky feeling part, I just want to add one point there, that for them to be able to recognize that icky feeling, like you said, you have to listen and acknowledge, because every time if something happens and they cry, or when you say, why are you crying for such a small thing, or why, and you keep demeaning or pushing down what they're feeling, as opposed to acknowledging that they're feeling what they're feeling. It's important to do that.
Right. No, absolutely. Also, I know that this is tough on parents, but and how to communicate with our children. We've kind of covered that in the course, but what do you do after you know that your child has been abused? What should the parents' next course of action be?
Absolutely. So, first of all, if you find out, if a child discloses to you, that's one of the ways to find out. Or you can suspect that something has happened, and that's why you will probably look further and you'll find out. For whatever reasons, if you find out, I think it's very important, like you said, to listen carefully. First of all, to acknowledge that it's very brave and very courageous for them to have to come to you and talk to you about this. So I think it's very important that you don't probe for details. You don't say, why were you there, what were you doing, why didn't you do this. That is the worst way to approach this, because you will shut the child down and they will not tell you anything more. They will shut right there. So I think it's very important to listen carefully. Do not ask them to forgive, forget, or adjust to this. You will be shocked and surprised, but many people, especially in cases of incest, have heard things like, we can't do anything about this, so you will still have to come to this family function, or you will still have to tie a rakhi to that older cousin who done something. And so very often the child's feelings have been put on the side to sort of continue with the society. Very important, the support and the help that you provide to the child when they disclose. If it's a negative experience, it shuts and it re-traumatizes and re-victimizes the child. So it's very important to have that support system, and for that all the concerned adults need to be educated on this. And because healing is possible, recovery is possible to lead a meaningful, normal life, right? So being able to, suggest counseling or therapy will also help them deal with any triggers that may arise and the impact that they may face from having been abused. So I think it's very important to look at all these aspects and create a very safe, positive, supportive environment for the child, because if that is lacking, they will not talk about it. There are n number of episodes where only maybe 3 to 5% people actually disclose. Rest of it goes absolutely under the carpet. People don't talk about it. And ever since I have come out with my story on Humans of Bombay and all of that, the amount of people that have written to me and said, we can't talk to any, thank you for talking about this, because this is somewhat what has happened to me. And it's amazing, but people don't feel that they have that environment that can support this.
Right. And what I would also add is, sometimes, and I can say this, that, like I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I feel like sometimes you feel like, oh, I have a great equation with my children and they come and tell me everything. I mean, yes, that's true so far, but not every parent has that equation with their child. Not every mom, dad, not everybody has that equation with their child. So, in case your child does feel intimidated and does not want to come and share that with you tomorrow, then maybe a good group exercise to do with your child, because then a structured flow of information is going, right. Like I said earlier when we just began, it's very important that information is always passed on from a trusted source, right, because that's the biggest, I think that's the first starting point, that as parents we are taking all our time to say acha ab baat karungi, ab baat karungi, and time is really trickling away too fast, and you don't realize that your kids have grown up and it's 1 year down and you still haven't had the conversation, right? So I think that's why also it's important to kind of entrust and get an expert to do it, or take a course with an expert, because there's some things which need a little bit of more direction. So
And
yeah.
having a course like this signals to your child that you're approachable, you are available, and that these conversations are not off the table. That
Right.
it's not that you need to write behind the back of a book or secretly tell your friend. It's something that's very much on the table and can be talked about and discussed openly with your immediate circle.
Which is very, very critical. I think that communication barrier, once that there are no guards or no filters there, it just makes it a lot easier. Anuja, that is absolutely incredible, and I'm so grateful that you've done this program for Kidsstoppress, because it literally means that we're starting the conversations much younger. A very obvious question, and somebody asked that, how is it different? So why 4 to 8 and why not for older children?
Okay, so the reason why I want to start with 4 to 8 year olds is first to just being able to, I think we need to ease into these conversations, have baby steps. So, as concerned adults, I think these are easier conversations to have. With older children, we're definitely going to come out with something at Circles of Safety, to support older children. There are a lot more books, there are a lot more resources available for teenagers, for preteens, because everybody thinks that these conversations need to happen around puberty. So all the focus is there. And so I'm trying to fill the gap and say, hey, you know what? The ABCs. If you want your child to be a mathematician, you're going to teach them the numeracy and the basic 1, 2, 3s from KG. You're not going to wait till they're in college, right? So the ABCs, I feel if these foundation and these fundamental things are clear, then you can have an ongoing and build on this conversation later. And so, of course, we will also develop something at Circles of Safety for the older child. But for now, I thought, why not start with the basics?
Right. Also, Anuja, the very FAQ that we get on Kidsstoppress and of all the DMs, etc., that we get, how are the modules different from what I can consume on YouTube?
Oh, I'll tell you how they are different, because I think on YouTube, it's more like you're just watching the video and then that's about it. How are you going to continue that conversation offline? And that is why I think this module is a wonderful mix of, there's an art activity, there's some logical sort of skills like word search, etc. So you're doing things and activities that a child normally engages in. And imagine how amazing that is, that you can build on the teachable moments in a child's life and also give in essential and critical messages. So it's not like, oh, this is going to be a serious time, we're going to sit for 1 hour and we have to do this. No, it's something that can be weaved into like regular conversations, And that's what I think the beauty of this module is, that if it's art, if it's book reading, if it's logical activity, it's like watching a video, it's all there.
Right, right. Which I think is the key, and I think the context that she weaves into the Indian space, I think that is very, very important. For everyone who's watching, the module is available on Kidsstoppress. If you guys are not already following Circles of Safety, please go ahead and do that. She's doing an incredible job building that as well. And for everyone who has any queries, please feel free to DM us or Anuja, and we'll be very, very happy to take that forward. And Anuja, really, thank you so very much for your time. And
Thank you.
thank you. Everybody who's trying to access this course, it's available on Kidsstoppress. And guys, as parents, we stumble upon where should I begin? Like, the reason we brought Anuja, who's an expert in the space, to kind of create this for us is the confusion that parents have. When do I begin? What do I talk? Where do I start? What should the first conversation be? I want to give information. It cannot be overwhelming. It needs to be age appropriate. You can't give more than what the child can absorb, right? So if you think that you're going to try and do this on your own or whatever, it might be a tricky pitch to start on. If somebody's experienced, been there, is doing it for a whole bunch of people, I would definitely go with somebody who and especially in the Indian context, right? Again, adding context is so very important because we've created this for parents where we know that yes, we're living in joint families. Yes, we meet our grandparents and uncles and aunts more frequently than just Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever. And therefore, it may be important for you to make that decision that yes, I want to be part of this program. Yes, and the best part is because it's lifelong access to the course, you can keep revisiting it with your child, right? ऐसे नहीं कि एक बार attend किया session and then you're gone home, right? I think that is very, very critical, guys.